and welcome to the Stories of Northern Life from the Sault Ste. Marie Museum. March 31st marks the date the old Dominion building where the Sault Museum is now opened its doors in 1906. So let's talk about the construction and design of this iconic building the Sault Ste. Marie Museum gets to call home. In May of 1902, the Dominion government announced that it had allocated $20,000 for the construction of the post office building in Sault Ste. Marie. After much discussion, the corner of East and Queen Street was chosen for the construction of the new building, as the winter ice road was located at the foot of East Street. Although the contract was set and work began May 1st, 1904, the building was not available for occupancy until March 31st, 1906. On August 31st, 1905, the Sault Star announced that the building was almost complete except for some electrical and post office fixtures that had been ordered at Collingwood. The Star said that, given 30 days for the arrival and 30 days for the installation, the building will be opened for public use on November 1st. In fact, a couple weeks or less should see some government tenants in the building. However, problems with the installations of the lighting held matters up, and the building was not officially opened until the last week of March 1906, like I said. So it took 2 years for planning and then another 2 years for building. But the wait was well worth it, as James Pym said. He's a descendant of David Pym, the Sault's very first postmaster. He said the building is constructed in a faultless manner, and the workmanship is one of the most finished type. It's one of the most finished type. The material used of the best quality. Hardwood floors, oak staircase, and trimmings. The plumbing done was just right, and the whole laid out by a man who had a head on him. James Pym was actually the first person to mail a letter on the opening day of the new post office. The post office, though, was not the only occupant of the Dominion building. The original building housed the post office on the first floor. Algonquin rifles, customs agent, weights and measures agent, and the Indian agent were located on the second floor. The third floor was reserved as a caretaker's apartment. The post office was a landmark of the commercial section in the town. It was the grandest and largest building and became a monument of Sault Ste. Marie's growth and government's recognition of the city's importance. For the early travelers to the Sault, the site of the clock tower was the first sign of the nearby city. The building was also recognized as an important gathering place for those who lived in this expanding city. As we all know, the post office was constructed at the vital corner of East and Queen Streets, a significant location because the direction of the streets shift from east, west to northwest, and south to east. At this corner, the building became a visual focal point of the streetscape. The combination of the various architecture features in the post office, such as the large classical copper cornice and the Romanesque stone arches, give it a look of its own, and it's a prime example of eclectic Ontario architecture. The carefully squared stone and brickwork on all 3 stories, the projecting front entrance, the cornices, and the clock tower distinguish this building. The rounded bow windows with the curved glass also add to its uniqueness. Just above those curved windows, on top of the turret, constructed of large rounded stone exceeding up to the second floor, is a stone balcony. Many recall the mayor and his official party viewing parades from this balcony. And maybe soon you'll be seeing some similar viewing parties or broadcasting parties up there for the next Community Day parades. It can only be reached through a window on the second floor, and that window is behind more walls built in our skylight gallery. The rough-cut sandstone for the building was from the excavation of the Canadian Locks. It was moved from the John Coulter family. There are more than 2,500 sandstone blocks in the building. The blocks were 18 inches thick and vary in sizes from 2 feet to 8 feet in length. They were barged up the river to the foot of East Street, loaded on horse-drawn wagons, and brought up East Street to the site where the local stone masons cut the stone to size. It is reported that the sandstone cost $75 and a bottle of scotch. Of course, the clock tower is one of the most impressive features of the post office and was completed at the same time as the rest of the building. But the clock itself was not installed till 1912. Until the clock was added, the vacant openings were filled with rounded glass window panes. These were stored at the peak of the tower, and one of them is now on display in our skylight gallery. I think one day I'll do a whole episode on the clock tower itself. But for now, let's dive into the original interior's description. The post office room is 68 by 56 feet. The main entrance contains the vestibule with double swinging doors, as does the entrance at the corner of East Street. The office may also be entered from the East Street corridor, which leads to the customs and other departments. On the Queen Street side, the box tier are the stamp wickets, 2 general delivery wickets, and the inquiry parcel wicket. The savings department, money order, and registered letter wickets are at the end of the East Street tier of boxes, adjacent to the rear entrance of the offices. The building isn't all post office. What seems to be an acre or more of cemented floor is an excellent basement, of which no immediate use is to be made. On the first floor, up East Street, is the offices and following Dominion government officials: gas inspector, weight and measures inspector, Indian agent, and the customs examining warehouse, beside a modern lavatory. On the second floor, reached a wide oak stairway, are the 5 quarters of the No. 1 company, Algonquin Rifles. These comprise 3 rooms. The lecture room is the greatest, 30 feet in length, and here the sub-target gun is a fixture. The Army and officers' room are across the hall from the lecture hall. Then, occupying the East and Queen Street corner, are 5 rooms for the customs staff. Mr. Plummer had a $75 desk sent in by the government, and his other office chairs cost $12 each. Next comes the snug quarters of the fisheries inspector, where Sandy Duncan will hold forth. The Inland Revenue Department is next door, Colonel Elliott's. 2 rooms are allocated to him. A quarter-cut oak counter and several money drawers adjourn to the outer office. The contractor said that these offices would get green plush carpets and extensive furniture just like Mr. Plummer. A large area of the plate rolled glass, 1 inch thick, over which you walk on the secondary story, which makes the post office interior on the first floor as light as day. The lavatory for women is on the second floor, and the third floor is for the caretaker reigns supreme. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode and learned a little something new about the building the museum calls home. It looked a little different back in the day, and I hope you got a little picture of what that may look like. And if you follow the Sault Ste. Marie Museum, I'll share a few photos there too. Come back again next week for another episode of the Stories of Northern Life. And thanks again for listening. Ciao for now.